to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jason.
I'm Coach Dave.
Coach Corian.
And we are Anchored at Harbor Park. Episode 37. Today we are talking about values. So to start off, before we get into it, we're going to start with a little icebreaker. We're going to talk about our number one most important personal value. And with no time to think about this either.
Okay, Corian, go.
Mine absolutely is passion. I have to find passion in everything I'm doing. I want to make other people passionate. I just want to love it to death. Like, that's what I think about when I think about passion. Just like, it's like a fiery, burning desire.
Mine is integrity.
Well, you got it.
Always grew up with it. Integrity is who you are when no one else is looking. So just leading by example. And like, I just feel that that's a very important trait to have.
Mine is kind of similar, but a little bit different. It's just always do the right thing. Whether, that means taking 5 seconds to go out of your way to pick something up off the floor, or, being courteous, or anything. Whatever you feel is right, actually doing it, which is kind of integrity.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a little roundabout way. All right, so let's talk about why values are important.
So I think that, yours gives the best probably visual. I say visual through a podcast, but whatever. Your values are important because they're what guide you when you're making decisions. So I don't know, mine more or less guides what I do in my life. I've never worked a job. I've never stayed in a job that I was unhappy with. I've never stayed in a relationship I was unhappy with. I never stayed in a house I was unhappy with. If I don't find passion and joy in that thing, whether it's internal or external, I'm just not going to do it. So that drives all my decisions. So when people sit here and they're afraid to leave their career, or they're afraid to do something else, for me, I think we talked about this on an earlier podcast. I'm really not scared to do other things, because for me, staying in a position that I am not happy with is worse than anything else that could be out there. So it guides all of my life choices.
And
good way to think about it.
I like to think about it as kind of a lens or a frame to look at people through. If you know their values, then you understand why. Because we all know people aren't always going to be the same as us or think the same way. So if we understand their values, we can understand why they do things differently, and then we probably aren't upset, or maybe not upset, but we just understand why people are different than us when we can see their values.
I like that.
Everyone has different values. The three of us just gave an icebreaker, and even yours and mine are similar. I think that's why when you look at people and they're in jobs or careers that they're not happy with, why? Because they, haven't defined it, and they don't understand why they're so miserable in their job. But that's part of it. You're miserable in life because you're not living up to the values that you have in yourself.
I would counter that and say that maybe it's not that they haven't defined their values. Maybe, like Jason said, maybe their values are different. As much as I love your brother-in-law or your brother and our sister-in-law, they work really, really hard. And for them, they value a financial stability. So that drives their decision to stay in these jobs that they might have to work 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks, because financially they're stable, they're able to provide everything they can for our nieces. So I'm not saying that's wrong, it's just different. So even though they might not always be happy, they're still living by their value.
I was saying more of somebody, you see people who are miserable, they think life is terrible. They look at all the negative aspects.
I will say a lot of people have not defined values.
It's because they're not living up to those values, and they haven't defined them, so they don't know what it is that's going to make them happy. So they're living an unfulfilled life.
Right. And they're also kind of, goes back to why they're important. It's kind of like a North Star, or a guiding thing in your life, so you understand what you should be doing when some of these people who don't have defined values might be kind of just wandering, not happy. They don't know where to go, so they can't see anything better.
Yeah, and that's not just personal, right? Like you have values in business, you have values in everything you do. So in like fitness, that's why we have goal sessions. Why is it important to you? Like having defined goals, and same with business. You should have defined goals for your business.
Yeah. I think I always, like, since being with you, Jay, like, in our journey of Harper Park, like, our business has always had values. And then, we very quickly defined those and wrote those out, and they've changed or been honed in since starting. But personally, I've only literally wrote out my values in the last 2 months. I think they were always there, obviously, and I just realized what exactly they are. Now they're on paper, and now they're, like, I wrote them out, and they're in my car, and they're in my nightstand, and they're places that I can see all the time. So I think they were always inside of me, and I always used them, but actually having them written, so when I'm having a conflict and I'm like, I don't know what to do right here, I can look at them and be like, is this my passion? Is this something that I truly, honestly love and enjoy? And then I go from there.
And yeah, so these values can kind of change over time, like you kind of talked about, Corian, as you grow as a person or as things change in your life. Obviously, probably a big one is when you get married or have kids.
Yeah.
Those values are going to change. Other things are going to be more important. Some people just grow out of old habits or old things, and I think we kind of all did that. I mean, I used to be a fairly big party guy. Love to go out on the weekends and have a good time with friends, and
didn't we all?
And now that's honestly like the last thing I want to do is go to the bar.
Not gonna lie.
Thank you.
On Thanksgiving, when we invited everybody over, and then like it kind of slowly morphed. Like, I know Mikey's a third shifter, so he wanted later, and I was like, oh, we're old. And then like as the day went on, I was like, Dave and I finally get a day to relax, and like we've just been chilling. We put a puzzle together, like we spent time together, and everybody slowly was texting me like, hey, we're in a food coma, we're gonna just stay home. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I just want to relax and then go to bed.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, some people might be like, oh, Jason, we don't see you out anymore. And it's like, well, that doesn't support what's important to me now, which is, my business and my health and growing myself personally.
Yeah.
Go out to the bar all night drinking. That's not good for your health. And then, Saturday's probably not going to be a good day either.
Yeah.
And then it puts you behind the 8 ball, even though you're not playing pool.
Yeah, and
it throws you back, and then you have a step back, and you got to recover from that, like you said. So then you're not being productive, and you're not being healthy.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things that I think is a big eye-opener for most people that do define their values, or at least semi have an idea of what is valuable to them, is what do you list out as your values, but then what do you actually give your time to? So Jay, if you're saying like my health and wellness is one of my values, and that's important to me, but you are going out every Friday and Saturday night, and you're staying out and you're partying, so then you're not working out hard on the weekends, is that truly a value or not? And that's okay if you realize that it's not, or if you realize that you need to adjust your life. Like I said, I always valued health and wellness, but I was fucking going out all the time, and I was drinking all the time. So I had to take a hard, long look at my life and be like, is health and wellness a value, or do I just say that because I think that's what people want to hear? And I think when I realized that it was truly something I valued, that's when my whole life shifted this last year. So
should we talk about kind of like how to set or define your values?
I think if we all talk about like how we did it, we'll realize there's different ways to do it, and then we can kind of hit on all the points.
So for me, I guess it's not something that like I had to think about. I just knew, like, I don't know if I'm unique or not, but like I knew family has always been, come from a big Italian family, and from the day I was born, like everything's about family. So number one is family. Number two is health, my personal health and wellness. And then number three is business. So, like, I guess I thought about a little bit, like, the order of those. What, like, priority, like, what comes first. But I always kind of knew that those were, like, my top three things. So I can use those as like filters for when Dave kind of talked about deciding what actions you're going to do. It's like if it doesn't help one of those three things, I'm probably not going to do it. I don't know, maybe you guys had a little different.
Well, I definitely had a different, like you, I think I always knew that there was values in my life. Like I said, I always like knew I wouldn't work a job that I wasn't happy. I would go find a new one before I quit it, but I was like, I have to be passionate about what I'm doing. So I always knew that. I love travel and adventure and trying new things. And obviously I got into nutrition and health and wellness and physical health. So that was always important. But like I said, in the last 2 months, I started reading this book called Being Boss. And if you have not read it or listened to their podcast, I highly, highly, highly suggest you do it. It does not matter if you are an entrepreneur or a creative or just someone seeking higher growth and mental growth. I think there's so many things that can be attributed to everybody's life. That being said, their book has a tactic for finding your values and actually like writing them out. So like even though I always had them in my mind, like putting them pen to paper was really important to me. So what they did is they took like a big, like there's 2 pages and it's just all of like these like action words and verbs and like different values that people could have. And they're just like randomly, I wouldn't say random, I guess they're in alphabetical order on these 2 pages. So you're supposed to like calm your mind and relax and then go through and just circle every word that kind of stands out to you. And then you kind of sit back, give yourself some moments to think, and then you go back and only focus on the words that you circled and then try to group them into categories that are kind of the same. So for me, like there's other things that came under passion. It was like passion and love and happiness and all of those things. So I grouped those words together. And then from that grouping, I picked out what word best encompassed all of those words together. So I kind of dwindled everything down to about 5. And then like you said, I kind of placed where I thought they were. And for me, like I said, passion is number 1. Wellness, I would say, is number 2. And I think that that's mental, physical, and like body wellness, or like all of those things kind of go together. Adventure is really high for me. So mine are like 1-word things that kind of encompass like a thought for me. And then obviously I do have family and integrity on there, and I think that I'm not ashamed that they're not my top, I will say, because I'm a big promoter of people. Like if you love yourself and you're happy with yourself, you're going to give that to everybody around you. And I don't think that it's selfish if family's not number 1. That being said, I think that most people, their family is number 1, but I'm not ashamed that mine's not. So.
Right. No, like we kind of talked at the beginning, like we understand why I'm always putting my family first versus you might go do whatever passion brings you to do, instead of another option, because that's.
I mean, literally look at it. Like you spend so much time with your family, weekends, holidays, all that stuff. And what do Dave and I do? We go on vacation for holidays. Like I love my family. Don't get me wrong. I love spending time with them, but my happiness and my passion comes first so that I can give back to them. So that's how I found mine. And I'm sure they'll change as I get older. And like we said, we talked about like family or, other things happening in life and, all of those things. Like, I think a lot of people who get like a big medical scare really take a reflection of what's important to them as well. So, Dave?
I don't actually have mine written down. I just live, like I want to do it, but mine are similar to yours. Like obviously adventure but big thing is like always just being happy. Like I don't, like you said, I don't want to be in a job or do anything that I'm not passionate about. So if I'm bored with it or I feel like I'm not appreciated, then you know what I mean? Like that's why
you are so like, I'm done. You are 100%. If something is not fulfilling your needs, and this is not a bad thing. Again, Dave is quick to be like, all right, I'm fucking moving on to the next thing. And I think that it's good and bad. I think it's great that you understand that you got to do things that you love. I think that's awesome. It's probably why we get along so well.
Experiencing, like I always kind of think like it's only one life, so what do I want to do with it? To look back, I always kind of did that. Was like look back when I'm 70. I'm gonna look back over my life, and would I be disappointed, or am I gonna be like, all right, I did that. So, that's a big guiding light for me. I kind of use that as a choice, and then health is big for me, and family is not in my top 5. I'll be honest.
Wah wah.
But that's just because my family isn't as close as your guys' families. And my family's spread out all over the United States, so don't get to see them other than holidays. And it's never, unfortunately, been a priority in my family's life to be like yours. Yours is a big Italian family. We're going to get together once a week. Corian's is, it's kind of the same thing. Mine just never used that as priority. So growing up, that wasn't ever, I guess, a big thing to me.
My family used to get together like your family once a week or once a month, and it was like my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, everybody. And like your family, like all the women in my family are loud, boisterous, laughing, having a good time, and the guys are kind of always chilling in the corner, and they, are there. And I started bringing Dave around, and Dave was like, "Oh my God," and he was like, "What's going on? That you guys are all together?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" Like, it's fucking Saturday. That's it.
What the hell are you doing?
I like it.
Yeah.
So
I enjoy my family. I love them.
Yeah.
let's talk about like best practices for defining if you're someone who doesn't have goals defined. So first of all, don't do this where you do your normal work, especially not in like your office. Like what I did when I was first getting mine super ironed out was I literally went to the lakefront in Kenosha, and I sat on the rocks and I thought about what was important to me, wrote it all down. You need to get out of your normal element because then you'll be more creative and you'll think better.
I did mine where I feel most comfortable. So mine was in bed with my coffee, cuddled up in the blankets with my pups. And I think Dave was next to me too. So
That's not where you do your normal work though, right?
not where I do business work, no, but I do hang out there a lot.
That's okay.
That's where she does a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Basically, you just don't want to do it where you're doing your normal, like, monotonous work, because then you're going to have that same thought pattern where you're just kind of trying to rush through it. You want to have a totally unique environment where you can actually think deeply. And spend, like, a long time thinking about it. Write it down and come back to it later.
Yeah, and if you're not 100% sure, like write some things down and then like over the next week, assess what goes on. Like if you say that you value family, I think like Ben Bergeron talked about this, like he values family, but then he realized that every night he was staying at his gym until 6:30 at night. By the time he got home, like the kids are going to bed, like he's like, so who am I to sit here and say that I value family when I'm at the gym 14 hours a day? So he obviously reassessed his day to fit because family was important to him. So like write some things down, and then over the next week, like really think about like where are you spending your time and what are you doing?
And ask people that you care about to like honestly give you feedback on like is this something that you think I live by or not? Or like Corian mentioned before, if it's something you want to live by and you don't, figure out how to make it.
Yeah.
If you want to be religious but you're not making any time to go to church or whatever that is, then figure out. Or if you want to be healthy but you're not making time for the gym, figure out how to fit that value into your life.
I liked what Carl Paoli did. He had those what was it, 5 questions you ask yourself, and it's just like you just define who you are, and you should be able to list them off, like you said, like your brothers and sisters' names or your children's names, and it should just come to you. It shouldn't be something you have to super think about too hard on, like, geez, what is a value? Like, it should be something like that's, like Corian said, you're passionate about, that it kind of jumps off your tongue.
So do we want to transition now? The whole point of this episode was to talk about our gym's new values, because we wouldn't say they're new, but we redefined them because of that very issue that Dave touched on. Is we didn't really, it's not that we weren't living by our values, but they were kind of hard. Like they weren't always top of mind, and they were just something that we had written down a while ago, and we were hoping we were living by them, but we weren't really sure.
And I definitely think that values should be reassessed every so often, maybe once a year or every 6 months or something like that, because your life does change. So I don't think that it's terrible. I think that we've gotten really streamlined with our values this time around. Like before, it was like long sentences, and they were great, but now we're like to the point. Like, this is our value.
Yep.
And I think that's awesome because I think these 3 values for the 3 of us are the epitome of everything we've tried to do.
And honestly, it kind of turned into like my personal values too.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So yeah, we
There's
did
a little
that.
tweak,
We interviewed Carl Paoli last episode, and we took what he taught us in his coaching seminar, right?
Beyond the movement.
We did it at our coaches meeting with all the coaches who were here. And Jay, how did we break it down? Like, we just started writing those one-word answers or what we lived by.
We wrote down what we already had, and then we started like kind of piecing them together. Like, what does that really mean? Does some of them fit together? And then I think we wrote down like how we each visualized that thing, because words and language are so fun because everybody reads them and interprets them differently. So we started just kind of like streamlining, like spitballing and giving the marker. Like Jared had the marker, Dave had the marker of like what that looked like to you. And then we kind of bottled it all down. We funneled it to these 3.
And everyone was kind of just all over the place, and then Dave just walked to the board and wrote down 3 words, and we're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So what were they?
Because I think the 3 words that we're going to say here in a second just truly define everything that we were all trying to say. So those 3 words, which we said were healthy, happy, community. And then we'll touch base on what all 3 of those.
So I love those 3 for many reasons, but one is they're 3 separate words, but they make a sentence that also encapsulates us.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I'm going to hang up on my mom real quick.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, Mom. Okay, so healthy. You just want me to read off the definitions for them? Healthy stands for what we do in the gym. We improve people's health and wellness, and we increase their longevity. This is essentially our filter when making decisions on what we offer at the gym. Does it make our people more healthy?
So I think that this is imperative because a lot of people always ask why we don't do strength and a Metcon every day, or people ask why we don't incorporate other things into our workouts or this or that. And we always tell people, like, we're here to be healthy. I want everybody to live a more healthy, sustainable lifestyle. And so, like, it's not that I don't think that people should be competitive. It's just that's not why the 3 of us opened our doors. And so I think that being our number 1 is super important.
Well, if you can remember back to when we first opened up, right? You know, it was right around, well, it was the end, it was in August, and so the open came within 6 months. It was like, oh, we gotta prep for the open. And I was like, we need to prep for it. Can we have a prep class? And we hired a coach to teach that class, and it was like certain people at a certain time of night because they paid for it, and then it just didn't go with the flow of the gym, and we felt that it was too segregated, and there was some issues there, and like, why didn't it fit? Because now we realize
Our atmosphere wasn't healthy.
Right. Well, that's kind of into the next point. So
Okay,
we're going to come back to that. But yeah, healthy. So going back to the competitive stuff, like why don't we do, some people say like more in a class, like so strength and a Metcon like other gyms do. Yeah, like Corian said, that's more competitive CrossFit, and it's very, very understood in the CrossFit world that like what competitive athletes do is not healthy. Like there's no guarantees that some of these athletes are not going to be like some of the professional football players who, you know, their bodies are just trash after 20 years of playing. So we don't know that. All these competitive CrossFit athletes could, you know, be putting their body at risk, and that's something they understand and they're willing to do to go to the CrossFit Games.
And I think a lot of them are starting to come out and talk about that. Basically, not only what it's done to their body, but their mentality. And again, it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's you just have to weigh out the pros and cons of everything.
So if that is what you want to do, we will support you 100%, but that is not the intent of our classes. So
Love
healthy,
you guys.
Healthy. The next value, happy. Happy stands for how we do it or how we conduct our business. We promote a positive and empowering environment for our members and staff to thrive in. If something doesn't make our gym overall more happy, we don't do it. So this kind of goes back to Dave's point about the competitor class a couple years ago. So
It made some people happy and a lot of others not happy.
Right. So overall, the gym was not more happy because of it. So we learned, we didn't cancel it during it or anything, but we learned, and it helps guide us going forward.
And I think this also helps guide our coaches and our classes. Our classes are meant to be happy. I want you guys to come in here and just fucking rock it out. We're a place that gets you away from whatever stressors are outside these doors. So if I can make your day happier, like that's what I'm here for. So I think that guides more than, just each individual person. It's
right.
like a whole thing going on here. Like,
if you come and you leave, like if you come for class and you leave less happy than when you came, then we did our job wrong.
Correct. And like Jason said, like if your goal is to be competitive and you want to go to competitions, that's awesome. We'll support you. We'll get you there. We'll help you as best we can. But like understand, like I had somebody ask me the other day, and I was like, you got to understand that that's 1%. In like our community, and then if you think of the whole CrossFit community too, it's like that's the 1%. And that person was like, yeah, you're right. Not everyone in this gym wants to go compete. I mean, they'll do it for fun. They want to compete against themselves to show themselves something, but the majority of people just want to get here and lose some weight,
right.
Be happy, be healthy.
And I hope none of you guys take this as like we don't like competitive CrossFit, because all three of us do. Oh, yeah. And we all compete, and we very much enjoy it.
So here's how that I think a lot of our members are blending this. Like Dave said, a lot of our members are competing. They're having a blast. All the ladies that just came in yesterday, I think that this will air next week, but they did a workout together. It was a hop-in before the snowstorm. They compete. They're happy. And they're having a blast. So again, there is a way to be competitive and still fit in our gym and still fit in your own happiness and all of that stuff. So just know, like Jason said, it's not that we're saying don't be competitive. We're just saying that on the spectacle, like this is number one is being healthy, and then we also want you to be happy, and then
that leads into our last one.
Yeah.
Community.
So
community is what we do it for. We are cultivating a community of people where everyone is welcome to feel safe and like they have a sense of belonging. If we do, we'll stop there.
Yeah. So I think that goes along again with yesterday. We had this group of people all working out, and then when I looked at the pictures that were taken, like there's a lot of people that I was like, oh, didn't see so and so at the Kenosha gym in quite a while, and now there they were, and they got invited to, everybody was invited to go work out. Like they just posted in our group, like who wants to come and do this workout with us? So I think that by being healthy together, by being happy together, we are cultivating, like you said, this great community of people that are uplifting and encouraging and, self-motivating, but also, motivating each other. And when all of those three things are on point, our whole gym is thriving. When one of those things gets off, I think everybody can kind of feel it.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, I think these three values also stood out to us when we wrote them down, because it drives us as what we want in our staff and what we want as gym owners.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the members, it's what we want. That's what we live by.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's simple to be able to just remember.
Going back to when we talked about like how to figure out your values and that kind of stuff, like once we saw it, we all just kind of knew. Like that's how you know it's a value of yours, when you just know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's great is that we have a staff that those are all their values too. And again, I don't want anybody to ever feel like, oh, my values, oh man, they just don't fit, or they're not the norm, or I'm going to be judged for them. Fuck that. Love your values. Love who you are. Let it guide you. If you don't fit somewhere, that's okay. We are a planet of billions of people. There's going to be a group for you. We want to be that group as much as we can, but be okay with what your values are. They're just you.
Totally agree. Is that it?
Anything else?
Do we finish? Do we hit everything? All the points?
I believe we did.
All right. Love it, guys.
Good job, guys. All right. Stay classy, Harvard Park.
Stay warm.
Yeah, stay warm. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.